At 79, Vince Gironda's appearance was not a matter of luck or genetics alone. It was a reflection of decades spent understanding the body as a living system that responds to signals, not merely calories. The distinction is subtle but profound. Aging is not an inevitable decline forced by time, but a series of responses to the environment the body perceives through food, movement, and stress. Every bite of food carries information, not just energy. Cells read nutrients like letters, interpreting them as instructions to grow, repair, or defend. When those instructions are consistent, precise, and aligned with the body's needs, aging slows and vitality persists. When the messages are chaotic, the body responds defensively, inflammation rises, and wear and tear accelerates. Vince recognized that the key to looking 35 at 79 was in creating a cellular environment that favored repair over reaction. Many people think that the secret of longevity lies in extremes, massive exercise routines, exotic supplements, or miraculous diets. Yet Gironda's insight was that the body responds more to clarity than to intensity. When a cell receives the correct nutrients in a predictable pattern, it does not need to enter survival mode. Mitochondria, the engines of the cell, function efficiently, producing energy without excess free radicals that damage proteins and DNA. Hormones maintain balance rather than fluctuating wildly under the stress of nutrient scarcity or overload. The skin retains elasticity, muscles retain tone, and the immune system operates in a state of readiness rather than overdrive. Longevity, therefore, becomes a natural byproduct of creating an environment where the body can thrive instead of constantly fight to survive. Food, in Gironda's philosophy, was not simply fuel for movement or muscle. It was the most immediate form of communication with the body's internal systems. Proteins instructed the body to build and repair. Fats informed cells about the integrity of membranes, hormone production, and neurological resilience. Carbohydrates, carefully chosen, provided steady energy without overwhelming insulin and triggering inflammation. The body is constantly interpreting these signals, and when signals are consistent and aligned with human physiology, the downstream effect is a slower, more graceful aging process. One could look at this scientifically as the modulation of metabolic pathways, reducing glycation, oxidative stress, and systemic inflammation, all key drivers of visible aging. Another layer to this approach is the concept of minimal stress. When the body does not have to manage conflicting or damaging signals, it can direct energy toward maintenance rather than crisis management. Vince understood that the human body, at any age, is capable of incredible repair if given the opportunity. This is why he avoided foods that caused repeated spikes in glucose, inflammatory responses, or toxic load on the liver. These seemingly small, daily decisions have cumulative effects over decades. While most people chase the newest trend or supplement, he relied on consistency, knowing that the best interventions are those that reinforce stability over time. At the heart of this philosophy is respect for biology. The body is not a machine to be forced or overridden. It is a responsive system, and its appearance reflects its internal environment. Wrinkles, sagging, fatigue, and stiffness are not merely cosmetic. They are the echoes of stress, poor communication, and constant correction. Vince Gironda's youthful appearance at 79 was the result of decades spent sending precise, supportive messages to his cells. He understood that visible aging is the sum of countless micro-decisions made over a lifetime. When the right signals are repeated consistently, the body maintains itself with a quiet efficiency that appears almost effortless. Aging slows not because time stops, but because the body is no longer being asked to respond to chaos. It is free to repair, rebuild, and maintain itself, preserving vitality and a youthful presence well into the later decades of life. Vince Gironda understood that one of the most powerful levers of youthful vitality was blood sugar stability. Aging is not merely the passage of years, but the cumulative effects of biochemical fluctuations that stress the body over time, and few systems feel this more acutely than the endocrine system. When glucose rises sharply after a meal and then falls rapidly, insulin must surge to manage the spike. Over decades, repeated insulin surges become a silent assault on the body. Cells become resistant, inflammation increases, and connective tissues begin to stiffen. Glycation, the process by which sugar molecules bind to proteins like collagen, accelerates visibly, leaving skin less resilient, muscles less firm, and organs under strain. By focusing on foods that keep blood sugar steady, Gironda effectively slowed these biochemical forces, reducing the wear and tear that manifests as premature aging. The principle is deceptively simple: maintain metabolic equilibrium, and the body does not have to constantly compensate. This is why he selected foods that were low in refined carbohydrates and high in nutrient density. By prioritizing protein, he supplied the body with the amino acids necessary for repair and regeneration without provoking extreme insulin responses. By including fiber-rich vegetables, he slowed glucose absorption, reducing the amplitude of spikes. And by carefully choosing natural, unprocessed carbohydrates, he created an internal environment where energy was available steadily, not erratically. The effect on the body is cumulative. Over years, the avoidance of blood sugar rollercoasters preserves not only outward appearance but also cardiovascular health, neurological function, and immune resilience. What many overlook is that blood sugar fluctuations are not just metabolic, they are neurological as well. Each rapid spike triggers a cascade of hormonal signaling, including cortisol and adrenaline, which stress the nervous system and amplify inflammatory responses. Over time, this chronic stress manifests as fatigue, irritability, and cognitive decline. Vince recognized that stabilizing glucose was therefore a way to stabilize the nervous system, creating a calmer internal environment in which cells could focus on maintenance rather than survival. The skin, muscles, and connective tissues benefit directly, but so too do the deeper organs, which rely on steady supply and balanced hormonal signals to function optimally. Protein-rich, nutrient-dense foods do more than provide building blocks. They communicate to the body that resources are available for growth and repair. When the body senses scarcity or overload, repair pathways are deprioritized in favor of survival responses. This is why, at 79, Vince retained a muscular, firm, and energized physique. His cells were receiving a consistent message: sufficient protein is available, energy is stable, and repair can proceed uninterrupted. Collagen production continued, mitochondria functioned efficiently, and systemic inflammation remained minimal. The cumulative effect is a body that appears decades younger, not because of luck or genetics, but because it has been consistently supplied with the right biochemical signals. Another critical factor is moderation. Gironda avoided foods that created rapid fluctuations or provoked insulin resistance. While extreme diets or intermittent fasting can produce dramatic short-term results, they often generate stress responses that are counterproductive if applied inconsistently over a lifetime. Vince's approach was measured and repeatable, emphasizing patterns of nutrition that could be maintained indefinitely. Over decades, these small, consistent adjustments compound into remarkable resilience, energy, and appearance. Aging in this context is not a matter of deterioration, it is a gradual expression of metabolic signals that have either supported or hindered cellular health. By stabilizing blood sugar, Gironda allowed his body to operate in a steady, predictable environment, minimizing the invisible stressors that accelerate aging, and enabling his cells to function at a level that preserved both vitality and youthfulness. Vince Gironda understood that fats were not merely a source of energy but the very architecture of life itself. Every cell membrane, every hormone, and much of the brain is composed of lipid molecules, and the quality of these fats directly affects the body's ability to maintain structure, communication, and resilience. Aging is often associated with fragility, sagging, and cognitive decline, yet much of this visible and functional deterioration results not from time itself but from chronic deficiencies and imbalances in essential fatty acids. By carefully selecting natural, nutrient-dense fats, Gironda provided his body with the raw materials necessary to maintain firmness in muscles, suppleness in skin, and clarity in thought. The choice of fats is not cosmetic, it is structural, instructing the body how to maintain itself under the stress of years and environmental challenges. When the body receives the wrong kinds of fats, oxidative stress increases, and cell membranes become rigid or damaged. Inflammatory pathways are amplified, contributing to systemic wear and tear. In contrast, stable, natural fats such as monounsaturated oils, omega-3s, and fat from whole food sources create membranes that are fluid, hormones that are balanced, and nervous systems that respond effectively to stimuli. This translates not only into outward appearance but into function, endurance, strength, coordination, and the body's ability to repair tissue after daily microtraumas. Gironda understood that visible aging, loose skin, diminished muscle tone, fatigue, was often a reflection of compromised internal architecture rather than chronological inevitability. By focusing on high-quality fats, he maintained a body that looked and felt resilient, energetic, and youthful. Fats also play a vital role in hormone regulation, which becomes increasingly important as the body ages. Testosterone, estrogen, and other steroid hormones are synthesized from cholesterol and other lipid molecules. When the body is deprived of sufficient natural fats, hormone production diminishes, leaving tissues vulnerable to catabolism and energy metabolism impaired. Vince's dietary focus ensured that his endocrine system continued to operate efficiently, supporting muscle maintenance, cognitive sharpness, and energy levels well into his late 70s. This approach highlights the interconnectedness of nutrition and physiology. What we eat directly informs what the body can create, repair, and sustain. Beyond structure and hormones, fats are central to cellular energy management. Mitochondria, the energy factories within cells, rely on lipids for both energy storage and membrane integrity. Healthy fats provide the mitochondria with materials that resist oxidative damage, improving efficiency and longevity. When energy production is consistent and resilient, the body maintains physical and mental performance, even in advanced age. Vince's adherence to natural fats created a cellular environment where the body could function optimally, supporting not only appearance but the underlying vitality that enables sustained movement, strength, and engagement with life. Equally important is the psychological and sensory role of fats in the diet. Consuming rich, satisfying, and natural fats sends signals to the brain that the environment is safe, reducing stress and cortisol levels. High stress accelerates aging by promoting inflammation, reducing immune efficiency, and impairing sleep. By integrating fats into meals in a balanced and intentional way, Gironda was able to influence not only physiology but the nervous system, creating a state where repair, regeneration, and resilience were prioritized over emergency responses. Gironda's approach demonstrates that longevity is not simply about reducing calories or exercising rigorously, but about creating an internal environment that supports structural integrity, hormonal balance, and efficient energy production. Fats are a cornerstone of that environment, providing the building blocks for cells, the materials for hormone synthesis, and the stability required to resist oxidative and inflammatory damage. By prioritizing the right types of fats, he allowed his body to maintain tone, resilience, and youthful energy, proving that aging is shaped less by the passing of years and more by the biochemical choices we make day after day, forming the foundation of both appearance and functional vitality. Vince Gironda recognized that digestion is far more than a process of breaking down food. It is a critical gateway for the body to allocate energy, repair tissues, and regulate systemic inflammation. When digestion is overtaxed, the body must divert energy away from maintenance and repair toward survival, creating a subtle but persistent form of internal stress. Over time, this energy diversion accelerates aging, not only in appearance but in the functionality of muscles, organs, and the nervous system. By choosing foods that were easily digestible and nutrient-dense, Gironda minimized this hidden burden, allowing the body to allocate energy toward regeneration rather than constant defense. Every meal, in this sense, became a message of calm and sufficiency, signaling to the body that it was safe to repair, rebuild, and maintain itself efficiently. The gut is intimately connected to the nervous system through the enteric nervous system, often referred to as the second brain. Stress, poor food choices, or overconsumption can create signals that the environment is unsafe, prompting the release of cortisol and other stress hormones. These hormones increase heart rate, constrict blood vessels, and accelerate cellular wear. By simplifying his diet and focusing on foods that supported efficient digestion, Gironda was not merely protecting the stomach or intestines, he was modulating the nervous system itself. Calm digestion led to reduced cortisol levels, improved autonomic balance, and a body that could prioritize maintenance over survival. The visible effects were profound: smoother skin, firmer muscles, and an energetic presence that belied his chronological age. Efficiency in digestion also has a direct impact on inflammation. When the gut is stressed or overloaded, inflammatory cytokines are released systemically, creating a low-grade but chronic inflammatory state. This inflammation accelerates tissue breakdown, promotes oxidative damage, and interferes with hormone signaling. By focusing on foods that were gentle, nutrient-rich, and balanced, Gironda minimized this inflammatory load. His body could then allocate resources to repair and regeneration rather than constantly fighting internally generated threats. Over decades, this approach reduced cumulative damage and preserved the structural integrity of muscles, tendons, and connective tissues, contributing to a body that appeared firm, resilient, and youthful. The simplicity of his approach is equally significant. Gironda avoided complexity, processing, and foods that required excessive enzymatic effort to break down. Each meal was composed in a way that the body could absorb nutrients efficiently, delivering amino acids, fats, and micronutrients directly to the systems that required them for repair and maintenance. This intentional simplicity also prevented energy fluctuations and insulin spikes, reinforcing stable metabolic signals. Over time, the body interprets consistent, easily processed nutrition as a reliable environment, reducing internal tension and creating the conditions for longevity. Gironda's focus on digestive efficiency also extended to timing and portion control. Overeating, even of wholesome foods, can overwhelm the system and trigger stress responses. By eating in measured amounts and allowing the body to process food fully, he maintained metabolic balance and avoided unnecessary activation of stress pathways. Each meal was not just nourishment but a reinforcement of physiological stability, teaching the body that the environment was predictable, safe, and sufficient. Ultimately, the attention to digestive simplicity is a lesson in alignment between biology and lifestyle. The body's ability to repair, regenerate, and maintain youthfulness is not a function of luck but of opportunity. When digestion is streamlined and the gut is respected, energy is freed, the nervous system relaxes, and inflammation diminishes. This cascading effect influences muscle tone, skin quality, cognitive function, and overall vitality. Vince Gironda's disciplined approach to digestion demonstrates that longevity is less about extraordinary interventions and more about consistent, thoughtful nourishment that allows the body to operate in a state of calm, repair, and regenerative efficiency, slowing the visible and invisible march of time. Vince Gironda understood that restraint was one of the most powerful tools in maintaining youth and vitality. Longevity is rarely achieved through extremes. It is the cumulative effect of repeated, consistent choices that communicate stability to the body. Overeating, erratic dieting, or chasing novelty in food sends conflicting signals to the body, creating stress rather than nourishment. When the body is constantly adjusting to extremes, it must allocate energy toward coping mechanisms instead of repair, regeneration, and maintenance. By limiting himself to a small group of trusted, nutrient-dense foods, Gironda reduced metabolic uncertainty, allowing his body to operate in a state of predictable balance. This restraint was not deprivation, it was clarity, a deliberate simplification of inputs to maximize output in terms of energy, repair, and long-term cellular health. The power of consistency lies in the way the body interprets repeated signals. Cells are not passive, they constantly monitor the environment for cues about what the body should do next. When the message is clear and repeated, resources are available, stress is minimal, and repair is safe, the body responds by maintaining and strengthening itself. Muscle fibers remain dense, collagen production continues, and oxidative damage is mitigated through efficient mitochondrial function. Conversely, when the message is inconsistent, fluctuating between excess and scarcity, inflammatory and neutral foods, the body enters a heightened state of vigilance. This constant adaptation accelerates wear and tear, shortening the window of peak performance and youthful appearance. Gironda's restraint created a stable internal environment that allowed physiological systems to perform optimally over decades. Equally important is the psychological aspect of repeated, controlled dietary patterns. The nervous system interprets unpredictability as a form of stress. Sudden spikes in sugar, overly processed foods, or erratic meal timing all generate subtle alerts that engage the sympathetic nervous system. Over time, chronic sympathetic activation accelerates aging by increasing cortisol, reducing repair efficiency, and promoting inflammation. By consuming a consistent set of foods, Gironda trained his nervous system to operate in parasympathetic dominance more often, a state associated with restoration, calm, and healing. The mind and body work in harmony under these conditions, promoting longevity at both the cellular and systemic levels. Vince's approach also highlights the importance of trust between biology and behavior. Aging accelerates when the body perceives unpredictability, whether in nutrient availability, sleep patterns, or stress exposure. By repeating a small set of foods and maintaining a predictable nutritional routine, Gironda allowed the body to trust its environment. This trust frees the body from constant defensive responses, permitting more energy to flow toward tissue repair, neural health, and cardiovascular efficiency. The result is a system that preserves muscle tone, maintains skin elasticity, and supports energy levels well beyond what most people expect in their 70s. Restraint also enforces simplicity, which itself is a form of efficiency. When the digestive system is not overloaded by variety or complexity, nutrient absorption is optimized. Enzymatic and metabolic pathways function more efficiently, and the body can focus on cellular maintenance rather than constant adaptation. Combined with nutrient-dense choices, this efficiency reinforces the benefits of restraint, creating a positive feedback loop. Predictable inputs lead to effective metabolism. Effective metabolism supports tissue repair, and tissue repair maintains both appearance and functional vitality. Over decades, this disciplined approach compounds. While most people look at aging as an inevitable decline, Vince's method demonstrates that what appears to be youthfulness at 79 is actually decades of consistent cellular communication, metabolic clarity, and nervous system regulation. Restraint sends the body a single, powerful message: stability is the norm, repair is prioritized, and vitality is possible. By trusting the body with predictable, high-quality inputs, the natural processes of maintenance and regeneration can unfold uninterrupted, preserving strength, energy, and youthful appearance far longer than random, reactive approaches to nutrition could ever achieve.